Hey YouTube, Maestro here from Bendu Lightsaber Combat. Today we're continuing our History of the Forms discussion, talking about the meaning of the forms and their fundamental formulas. Today we'll be covering the fifth form of lightsaber combat, or DjemSo. DjemSo is one of the most popular forms of lightsaber combat because it's the style of Vader, Luke Skywalker, some of the more popular characters in the Star Wars mythos. So the form has gotten a lot of scrutiny, and we have a lot of information about it to go on in the canons. It's been described a lot, in various works of literature, comic books, video games, things like that, the movies themselves. But the DjemSo is a combination of two words. Djem, which simply means the weapon, just as a mark of contact, sun gem, where you attack the weapon, sunder the weapon. We have the Djem, which means the weapon, and so if you've seen our Sarisu videos, know that the suffix so refers to perfect or complete, something that's perfect or complete. So what we have here with Form 5, DjemSo, is a perfect or complete weapon, the total weapon. And that's what DjemSo is all about, is using absolutely everything you have. When you're a DjemSo practitioner, you don't have a weapon. You are the weapon. Everything about that you do, everything that you're about, either breaks your opponent down or increases your ability to contend with him. DjemSo is unique amongst the previous forms because all of those forms were developed, separately in the canon, in the mythos. Shicho was developed first as a tutorial style. From that evolved Makashi, which was the dance of the duelist, teaching people how to take apart people who were using Shicho, how to really be superior duelist in that way. And then we have Sarisu, which deals with total defense. Blaster technology emerged and they had to defend against it. And Sarisu was largely seen as perfect, except by a few people in the order who decided that they needed something else. That's where we get Ataru. Ataru has a complete dedication to offense, whereas Sarisu has a complete dedication to defense. Shicho was the other side of that development. Shicho was developed by people who liked Sarisu, but who felt that such a defensive-only oriented aspect wasn't enough to meet the demands of their day. And so what they did was they hybridized Sarisu and Makashi, and the result is DjemSo. So that's what DjemSo looks like from our perspective. We took the same thing. We mixed, hybridized Sarisu elements, a foundation, a fundamental beginning in Sarisu, and added elements of Makashi to it to make it more offensively viable. And that's the meaning and the development of DjemSo. All right, so now we're going to talk about the fundamental formula of DjemSo. What makes DjemSo DjemSo? What separates it from the other forms? It's, as we talked about before, a hybridization of the elements of Sarisu and Makashi. And what that does is that gives us a strongly defensive-oriented form which banks itself on its ability to undermine opponents' defenses and on the counterattack. Also, there are elements of, traditionally in DjemSo, it's thought of as being a form based entirely on power, raw physical power, we crush, kill, destroy kind of thing. That is a reputation carefully cultivated by DjemSoists. And it's not entirely without merit, but the truth of it is closer to this. DjemSo is all about power. But it's about power through leverage, gaining power in the most efficient way so that when we strike, that power is absolutely overwhelming and overpowering. It's devastating to the opponent when a DjemSoist actually makes his attack against him. All right, so the fundamental formula, like all the other fundamental formulas, is a process. Think of it like a recipe for success in DjemSo. The first part talks about how we gain our initial advantage, and that's by establishing direct control of the opponent. That can be done in a lot of different ways. DjemSoists can establish control. They have a lot of options open to them. They can establish it through distance. They can establish that control through a direct action onto the blade. They can establish that control by seizing the initiative and attacking straight away. They can establish that control by delaying their actions, by playing it smart. There's all sorts of different ways, which is one of the things that's really great about DjemSo, is it's wide and expansive, and it covers a lot of different scenarios. It's equally competent on a battlefield versus multiple opponents or against a single opponent. The second thing we follow that up with, once we've established a direct control over the opponent in whatever way that we did it, we then want to create or exploit any vulnerabilities. This is similar to Makashi, where we exploit vulnerabilities, but DjemSo adds the option of creating those actively through its leveraged power. For example, a DjemSoist might come in and create a bind with his opponent. That's something that DjemSoists love to do, is to work from the bind, where the two blades are connected, crossed, and you're putting effort into the other blade. Now, in the movies, they hold those binds like, I'm going to kill you, for a long time. In DjemSo, the bind can be like that. It's designed to be a momentary thing. We bind, I get pressure signals from the opponent. That tells me where his vulnerabilities are, and I move to exploit them. After I've exploited his vulnerabilities, I then need to maintain my defensive coverage. First and foremost, DjemSo is a defensively oriented art. It's all about keeping you alive so that you can leverage your power onto the opponent, so that you can do damage. You can't do that if you're dead, if you're leaving yourself open. That's one of the things that makes DjemSo so deadly in a dueling situation, a one-on-one situation, is that even after we're exploiting those vulnerabilities in the opponent, we're maintaining our defensive coverage coming out of that engagement. We're not dropping the sword. We're not bound up with the opponent. We're not keeping, things going here with the opponent. We're getting in, finishing the opponent, and out, and we have our defensive coverage maintained. That's what makes DjemSo in our system DjemSo.